So that concludes part one of our strategy. We're now going to look at strategy number two, which is the brainstorming. So, following on from identifying our essay focus, our topic of ideas, as well as our own opinion, we can now start to brainstorm reasons in support for both sides of the argument for approximately 5 minutes maximum. You might want to spend less on this if you already know exactly what you're thinking and what you're going to argue about, but it's a good idea to spend this time formulating our ideas in order to continue with our essay. So, the reason why I ask my students to think of both sides of the debate is that maybe you've identified the focus, but you're still not sure about what side of the debate you fall on. So, therefore, you're not exactly sure about how you can actually develop upon those ideas. So, for brainstorming for about 5 minutes with both sides, we may actually find out that we have more to think about and talk about regarding the side that we did not initially agree with. So, 5 minutes, brainstorm both sides unless you are incredibly sure about one side of the debate. But it's a good idea to spend, regardless of if you're arguing for one side or both sides, a bit of time in order to flesh out our ideas, which we can then make into supporting examples as well as a really, really good topic sentence for our essay. So, our two sides of this argument, as I said earlier, involved advertising being a great resource for underfunded schools, as well as also being a captive to corporate interests. A great resource for underfunded schools being a positive state, and captive to corporate interests being a very negative aspect to this test. So here are some ideas that I have formulated regarding my own arguments to this essay prompt. You'll probably have your own ideas. You're free, feel free to use it in case you get them if you're going to write this essay in your own time. But here are some ideas that you can take for your own argumentative purposes. So we're going to look first of all at the great resource for underfunded schools. I think that public schools can be chronically underfunded in some countries, and it's especially true to say about my own native UK and Ireland that schools have had a very, very difficult and tumultuous time recently. The Conservative government who came to power about approximately 10 years ago have drastically and chronically underfunded any public spending in terms of schools. The result has been various job redundancies, less materials, less resources going towards the children in schools, larger classroom sizes, as well as very, very stressed teachers and other members of staff. So that underfunding ultimately has reduced in a very strained and probably less efficient education system. So if that money is not going to come from the public purse, then where is it going to come from? Well, advertising is a potential remedy to that. Secondly, advertising can alleviate financial burden for parents if the money is used appropriately. So, as I said, some places in the world, including the UK and Ireland, have had a bit of a strain in terms of the funding of schools. Often the parents have had to pick up for the lack of school supplies that are being given, having to pay for their own textbooks, pencils, pens, uh, school bags, uniforms, etc., when usually that might have actually been provided by the school. Parents are probably equally cash strapped and would rather that they spent the money on other things. So advertising could come in order to find a way to not only alleviate the issue with the chronically underfunded schools, but also to supply the essential and necessary supplies that would otherwise be paid by the schools itself. Next, some of the products advertised could be of genuine interest to schools, the students, the staff, and the parents. Well, needless to say that many and various products are probably going to be used by these kids at schools and also outside. These could be extra supplementary materials or books. They could be sports equipment. They could be excursions or points of interest that the children can go on. So why not involve companies that might advertise their own products in these schools that could be a mutual benefit to the company's profits as well as the school's interests. It could be mutually beneficial for both. Finally, students and teachers could vote on which companies are allowed to advertise. The issue is that some advertising companies may actually involve their profits and their influence in advertising products that might not even be beneficial towards some of the kids in schools and actually could detract from their whole educational experience. But if the students and the teachers, as well as some of the parents, could decide on what's appropriate for advertising, then they could ensure that some of the more harmful effects of advertising might not actually slip into the school's advertising system, and instead they could benefit from products and services which could be of interest to them, and therefore it's a win-win situation. More money to be used in the school, as well as more products that can be involved in the school's advertising in order to benefit the companies that manage to advertise. It could work that way. Let's move on to the other side of the debate in terms of being captive to corporate interests. Well, needless to say that children are easily influenced and preyed upon by advertising, as I previously mentioned in this video, that some products are very, 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 very desired by children, and often they don't have the self-control or even the know-how in order to understand that they are being preyed upon by companies. You can think of various fast food chains, you can think of candies, you can think of sweets, you can think of toys in the latest gadgets. They will see that this really, really cool, influential cartoon character that they know or a famous celebrity that they follow is advertising this product and making them want to use it too. Lo and behold, the advertising runs out of control and they find that everyone of their friends is buying this product. And not wanting to be left out, they need to also have this product too. So it kind of escalates out of control. So much money is being spent, and the parents are probably a little bit worried about that. Which brings me to my next point. Parents have to foot the bill of these products children have been exposed to. As I said, children don't really have a concept of money. They don't work. They don't earn money themselves. They only get the things they need and want from their parents. And if this advertising runs out of control and the parents are needing to buy all these things for the kids because society has placed that demand upon them, then what sort of financial situation will the parents be in? Who knows? It could be a very big problem. I'm sure many of us have had that issue too, if we think about it. It can be unhealthy both physically and psychologically for the children. As I said, various candies and sweets and chocolates can be advertised to the children. They might be eating these unhealthy foods as part of an unhealthy diet, gaining weight, not being as physically active with the gadgets they have, as well as psychologically as well. Who knows what damage like some of these products are doing to the kids' own minds, as well as being compared to their peers regarding the products. This race to have the best and be the best at everything and have everything creates a bad precedent in society, in my opinion. Finally, corporate interests could purchase influencing power within the schools. If we look at the other viewpoint in which teachers and students could actually decide on what they want to vote upon, if we look at the converse side of the argument, in that the more advertising that gets involved in the schools, then the corporate influence could actually start to expand to other departments and effectively increase their own advertising revenue by buying influence with the money they have via these profits. So it could escalate out of control. It could be a big issue. It's not like advertising companies haven't done it before, but it's room to be concerned with. So here are two ideas, or several ideas I have on the two sides of the argument. Some ideas for you to think about in terms of your own essay. If you write it, you might have your own ideas. We'd be very interested to hear about those if you do.